Welcome back, friends. We have quite the project going on here this cold and rainy Saturday. We are replacing our 12-year-old Sony Trinitron analog television that weighs about 90 pounds and can get no signal because, hey, it's analog, with a 32-inch Sharp Smart TV. $149 at Best Buy. And you would think that's a pretty easy thing. Hey, just take one out, throw the other one up. Not in a motorhome, not so much. A little more complicated than that. The big complication is we have a square hole with a square TV, and we're going to replace it with a rectangular one. So we've got to come up with something else, because here's the bezel that goes around it, and it's got to look pretty good when you're done. You don't want to have a nice looking RV with some kind of half-ass looking TV installation in there. So we're taking our time trying to figure out what to do. First thing we had to decide is on the TV what size you're going to need. And we're pretty lucky that a 32-inch fits up there just perfectly. The bezel goes around with about maybe a ½ inch of coverage on each side. So it's just perfect. And we just have to figure out a way to make a square hole rectangular and make it look good. Now the biggest thing when you get started on this is try to figure out how that bezel comes off, and how to get everything disassembled, and how do you get to the back of this TV. In our particular situation, this is an Itasca by Winnebago, and there's screws that access the bezel from here and here and underneath. So just stand back and study it a little bit, get a flashlight and look around, and you'll be able to figure out how your particular front piece or your bezel comes off, and you can access the TV. This being a Winnebago project or a product and a 90-pound television, this chassis is super heavy duty. I mean, I can hang off this thing and do pull-ups if I wanted to do pull-ups, but I'm not. But it gave us a good base to be able to anchor our new mounting system in here. What I ended up with was a piece of 1x6, some little 3/4 inch brackets here. We use some self-tapping screws here and some wood screws there. And then let me show you a little bit about this particular mount that I picked. Now there's a lot of different mounts out there. I've had some experience with these in other RVs, and I want to tell you why I chose this one. Let's take a look at the television real quick and the mount. Now this just hooks on the top here, and then down at the bottom there's a screw. It's hard to see because it's black on black here. Once you get it to where you want it, then you can just tighten this screw up, and then your mount and your TV is in place. There's some other ones that work on this type of hook process too, and then it has some strings down here to where you can pull them and it'll undo a latch down here. But the problem with that is it's never really tight, and that might be fine for hanging on a wall, but when you're going down the highway, you don't want any movement on this mount whatsoever. You want it to be good and tight. So the good thing about this mount, and it's only $19.95, I got this one at Best Buy, is you do have some lateral movement side to side, so your measurements don't have to be exactly perfect on the backing board up there. The other thing I did was on the mounting screws, the 4 here that go into the television, I used some blue Loctite thread locker. Since we are going down the road and we are in motion, we want to make sure that those things don't back out. So that's really all we had to do there. Once we got our board in place, and I cut this to fit where it was really tight in this chassis, and this chassis is about 1/16 of an inch metal, and so it's not moving. Once I got it in kind of where I thought it needed to be, and we got it screwed in up here and got the TV hung, I positioned the bezel back up where it's supposed to be, and then got everything centered just where I wanted it. And then from these access holes here, I went up with a silver Sharpie and scribed around the side. Very gently remove the television, and then I was able to install my 3 self-tapping screws there into the chassis. And then Rehung the television, remounted the bezel, and made sure everything was the way it needed to be. You have to be patient with this because there's a lot of, there's a lot of mocking up with this. Like I said, we're making a rectangle out of a square hole. So what I decided to do down here at the bottom is we're going to use this piece of 1x6. And if I can get it in here, cut it to fit down here at the bottom like that. And actually I didn't have to cut any of this at all. The size was just perfect. The TV is actually going to rest on top of this. We've got some black weather stripping that'll glue up here so it can sit down there. I have something not firm to rest on, but not rigid. Screw this in place with some screws right here, and then we set the TV in there and we'll kind of mock it up. So let's set that thing in there. And you're just going to have to go back and forth with this a few times to make this work. I say I will. And then, since that bracket will allow you to go side to side, so we got enough room here for some weather stripping foam. And then you have to put your bezel on, and then you can center your TV. Fortunately, this 32-inch TV fits perfect inside this hole. So, what are we going to do about this down here? What's it going to look like? Well, I'm glad you asked. Our plan is to make this look like a sound bar. So I'm going to take some thin foam and some speaker material, and we're going to cut it to fit right across here, and then we're going to Velcro it on here so we can take it off. So by the time we're done, it should look like a factory installation. At least that's the plan. Let's see how it goes. Now, one thing we had to deal with was our sound system. This is a surround system throughout the coach, and this is a Sony, yep, that's a VHS DVD, but it is a surround sound system, which means it has terminations in the back for these 3 speakers in the front and the 2 in the back. Well, you can yank all that stuff out and you can replace it with another surround sound system, but that's kind of expensive. So we decided just to leave that in there so we could still use our speakers. And the problem is with the TV is once we button all that up, you won't be able to hear the speakers in the TV. We're going to have to use a surround sound, which is how it's designed to work anyway. So we're going to need 2 remotes, one for the TV and one just to operate the sound system. But that's okay, that's kind of the way it works at the house too. But just be mindful, you might have to do something like that. Also, once you get to this stage, this is where you kind of want to start looking at all your different cables, because everything that was in here is analog and we're going to digital. So this is when you start changing different cables, mock everything up, plug everything in. You don't have to mount anything, but just make sure everything works the way you want it to. For instance, we're going to take that HDMI cable right there, and we have 3 HDMI ports on the side of this TV, and we're going to have one plugged in, and then we're just going to store it up there. Because say I want to watch some YouTube videos on my computer, I'll just plug it into the HDMI on the computer, and then I can watch them on the big screen. So that's kind of the plan we have for that. I just want to have a cable in there at the ready so I don't have to try to figure out some sort of rigging while we're at the campground. So let's continue on and get this thing buttoned up. Well, as you can see, we've got all our cabling hooked up. Everything's working. We're using the Sony surround sound receiver over there for our sound. It's all we need. Let's mute this because it's kind of annoying. And then we'll be using our regular TV remote to handle the channels. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off because it's kind of annoying with it on here. As I said, I'm going to turn it off. There we go. Now, one thing you want to do, you want to take note of, is before you cut boards and screw things together and put your bezel back on, make sure you know where your remote control receiver is, because if your bezel or your molding or whatever covers that up, you're not going to be able to turn your TV on and off, and that's not any fun at all. So far everything's the way we want it. We've got it centered here in the chassis, so I think we're going to tighten it down right there. But what to do about that lower hole down there? Well, I'm glad you asked. What we're going to do is I've cut a board to fit, another 1x6, and it's going to fit in here just like that. I drilled some holes. We're going to screw it in here, and then I've got some of this weather stripping, this black foam. We're going to put a piece of it across here, and the TV's actually going to rest on that, just to cut down the vibration just a little bit. Then what I'm going to do is we're going to make a faux, also known as fake, speaker up here. So I've gone to the fabric store and I bought some speaker material, some thin foam, and we're going to make a fake speaker bar across there, so it's going to look factory, and then it'll just velcro on and off. So that's going to be our next project. Let's get to it. We got everything back together now. Got the bezel on there nice and tight. All the screws are in place and mounted. We got our backer board here screwed in good and tight. TV resting on it, giving it a little support with our foam weather stripping in the middle. As you can see, we've got a little bit of space here. It's not much, maybe 3/16, something like that, all the way around. Nothing I can do about that because the mounts on the chassis and the mounts on the bezel are what they are, and we can't really adjust those. But that's okay because our fake speaker cover is going to take care of all that. So let's see how that looks. Just got some 3/16, I believe it's 3/16 foam from the fabric store. You can also get this at Walmart in the fabric section, and it was $6.97, I think. Speaker material here from the fabric store, bought a yard of it. It was $7. Went over to the Home Crepo, got a 3/16 piece of paneling that we're going to use because that's pretty thin. That's what you want. It's thin and light. And what I did is I cut a piece of that foam, just a little oversized all the way around, so when I pull my material, it'll have a nice rounded edge to it. And I glued that on there using this spray adhesive. This is a Loctite product. 3M also makes one. I think it's called 3M77. And the next thing we're going to do, I've cut a piece of speaker cover there, cover material, and we're going to put a stripe of glue down all four corners, and we're going to tuck this over and make it nice and tight. Then we're going to attach it to our backer board under the TV using some Velcro. Now, the Velcro you want to use is the sew-on Velcro, not the stick-on Velcro. And the reason is, if you're in a hot climate like I am, you just put the stick-on Velcro on here, and it doesn't make any difference how much weight you have on it. It just deteriorates in the heat and cold. So what you want is the sew-on, and you're not going to be able to find that at Home Depot or Lowe's. You're going to have to get that from the fabric store. And it doesn't have any backing on it whatsoever. And we're going to glue it on here with this contact cement. Now this is not rubber cement, it's contact cement. And the way contact cement works is you put it on one surface, and then your other piece you want to glue on there, you put it on the other surface, and you let them dry for about 10 minutes or so. And then you stick it on there, and it's on there for the duration. It does not come apart. I've used contact cement on stuff. I tell you what, it'll hold tack strip down along a wall, and you can stretch carpet on it, on say a masonry floor or a brick floor or something like that. The stuff works. So Don't use the Velcro that has the sticky backing on it. Okay, let me get that started and we'll see how it looks when I'm done. Well, there it is, folks. That's our finished product, all buttoned up. Everything's working. Check out our factory fake sound bar down at the bottom. All I need is a Sony or a Bose decal to stick on there, and it'll look like some sort of factory installation. If you walk right up on that thing, it looks just like it's supposed to be. So I'm pretty happy about that. So don't be afraid to try this project. I'll just tell you right now, if you just take your time, this is not a fast project. Just devote a day to doing it, because it's probably going to take you at least that long. Check those cabinets on either side of your television, and you'll see some access screws probably to hold that bezel in, and just start taking things apart. And once you get it apart, you'll be able to see how everything works in there. Just take your time and don't get in a big hurry. Also, I would encourage you to get the smart TV, not just a regular flat screen. This one was only 149 bucks, and that way you'll be able to stream your Netflix, Hulu, Roku, whatever you want to do, if you can get you a Wi-Fi connection. Also, think ahead. This thing has 3 HDMI ports, so I went ahead and put a HDMI cable, a long cable, into one of those ports. So if I want to plug in, you know, my laptop or something, I've got that ready to go, and it's just hiding up there in the cabinet. So if I need it, I got it, and it's a lot easier than try to go and do it after the fact. One other thing you're going to have to do now is, yeah, we took out that big old 90-pound Sony boat anchor, that analog TV out of there, but now we've got a nice digital TV, so you're going to need a digital antenna. It's not a big deal. You've probably got one of those Winegard batwing antennas up on your RV, and I'll link below a video to show you how to change that out for, you know, about 40 bucks, and you're going to instantly pick up more channels when you do it. It's a smaller, more compact, true digital antenna. It's not a band-aid or anything that you would clamp onto your other antenna, but it will be a retrofit right on top of, or right in place of that batwing antenna. It's really easy to do, and I'll show you how to do it. So there it is, folks. I hope you learned something here. Hope you're not afraid to go and try this yourself, because you'll be a lot more happy with this TV here than the one you got, because you can't get any channels on the old analog one. So if you like what you see here, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, share our video with your friends, and hit the old subscribe button. Leave a comment if you got anything to say too. So until next time, you guys be safe, and we'll see you down the road. Adios.